Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the first episode of the First Generation Aggies Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Guerra, with our other host.
Isaac Valdez. Nice to meet everyone. I'm glad that we could finally be here, starting this podcast, starting filming and everything.
Yeah, we're so excited. It's been a journey to get here, from equipment-wise to getting moderators, editors. It's just good to be here. This episode, we mainly it's going to be just me and Isaac talking about our journey and whatnot. Before we get into it, let's talk about the podcast, about how this even came to fruition. So, with the whole pandemic going on, we as an organization, First Generation Aggies, decided to create this podcast. It was actually an idea by our president, Kevin, last semester. He mentioned it in one of our meetings, and we didn't really get too into the idea of it. But then with the whole COVID situation, we decided this would be perfect. Since everything's virtual, we wanted to go ahead and make the podcast that way we could stay connected with all of our members and have a way to bring resources to them. And on the podcast, the resources we want to bring are sort of stuff such as resume workshops. We want to bring a whole bunch of guests, hopefully first gen. That's our goal, to bring first gen Aggies to tell their stories, just like we will be doing today. Let's get into the icebreakers. If you could have dinner with any person that is dead or alive, real or fictional, who would it be and why? I'll let Isaac answer this one first.
All right. So yeah, we're already wrote these out so we could have it a little bit planned out. So my answer was my grandmother on my dad's side. And I guess because I felt like I've never had any connection with any famous person or celebrity, but with my grandmother, I've always heard stories that my dad would tell me about her and like all the things she would do, the way she raised him. And sadly, she passed before I was even born. So like I feel like if there was one person I would want to sit down and talk to a little bit, especially to like learn stuff about my dad even, it'd definitely be my grandmother. I feel like that'd be nice. What about you?
For me, I said a celebrity. So I said well, no, I said a fictional character. And I don't know if you ever seen the show Mad Men.
Is it a cop show?
No,
Yeah.
man, it's about advertising stuff. So the person I would like to have dinner with would be his name's Donald Draper. Just because he's a smooth dude, and he actually has like my dream job. He's a creative director for a advertising agency, and I'll get a little bit into that later. But how I came to be wanting to be in that job, but having that as my dream job. But
You said Mad Men, right?
yeah,
But yeah, no, I know Mad Men. Yeah.
yeah.
Did you finish seeing the season? I'd stopped like 2 seasons or 3 seasons in.
No, yeah, I watched them all on Netflix. They just took it off actually recently. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of bummed about that. But yeah, I finished it. It was a great series.
What did get you into wanting to that same profession that he has in the show?
Yeah, so I guess we could go into whenever I came to A&M, I wanted to come to A&M, but I didn't know what I want to do, like a lot of, first generation Aggies do. So I just know I wanted to be at A&M, so I applied for A&M and I applied for engineering, I believe, petroleum engineering, and the College of they were full for petroleum engineer majors. So I was like, man, I don't know what I want to do. So I seen statistics was open, and it was really intriguing to me. And that's also where I made, I would say, my biggest mistake, which was I didn't know what I do. So what did I do? I went to Google and looked up highest paying jobs. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't know too much. I was interested in statistics, but I based my whole college off of that, and that's one thing I really recommend not for anyone not to do. You really want to go into something that you love. So after a couple semesters in statistics, I really struggled, like, because I came from a high school where I didn't have to do as much studying. So I wasn't fully prepared for that, and let alone going into statistics, which was something I wasn't extremely thrilled about. So that being said, I changed my major to University Studies Business. Well, I wanted to go into marketing, but it was a little late. So I went and talked to advisors, which they helped me out a lot. And they recommended, well, if you want to go to marketing, you should do university studies business, since that sort of aligns with it, with minors in communication and economics. So I was like, yeah, that sounds like a great plan, because I actually was taking a lot of economics classes and I liked economics a lot. So I was like, actually, that economics has to do with marketing. So it all kind of lined up like that. And that being said,
Did you
around that,
watch Mad Men before or
yeah, that's
after?
what I was just about to say. Around that time, I started watching Mad Men, and I really, honestly, what really intrigues me about the show is there's an advertising firm, so you kind of see the creative process. Although it's a TV show and not obviously not fully real, but you see the creative process of them making ad campaigns for big firms like Manischewitz, Kraft Heinz, and stuff like that. And I really, really, really fell in love with the creative aspect of that, which is why I'm glad to be a part of this podcast because
Mhm.
it's sort of marketing in a way related, and yeah,
Isn't it what you said earlier about how like searching up the highest paying jobs before you decided your major? I feel like probably first gen Aggies more, but I guess everyone in college, like going into it definitely feels like, at least for me, that was a focal point, was like how much money can I make from this because I'm gonna have to pay it back off or in student loans. So like I guess that's interesting that like that's the first thing that high school into college people our age think about is how much money can I make off of this.
definitely, definitely. And that, like I said, that's very dangerous to do. Very dangerous to do. But and then your major, what was your major again?
So I'm majoring in material science engineering. I guess I'll tell a little bit of my story too. So I started off, like you said, something similar to you, that in high school it wasn't really, I guess, too competitive is the word. I went to public school. So I guess maybe it wasn't competitive enough, and because of that, I was able to get good enough grades to go to college without really studying. So, but because of that, I also ended up getting accepted into A&M Galveston as I think they call it their CAP program. So went to A&M Galveston instead of College Station, and then the goal was to study there, get a good enough grades, and then transfer into College Station. And that's what I ended up doing. But because of that, like you said, that's the main problem I've had as far as coming into college is learning how to be a student. Is because I feel like barely now, even already in my third year, I feel like I'm still learning how to be a proper student, study the right way, and even like ask the right questions too. But yeah, went to A&M Galveston, went there for a year. I grinded it out, made sure I'd stayed as focused as I could, and ended up transferring here to College Station last year. Yeah.
Nice, nice. On the study habits thing, if I had a couple tips for first gen students, for me, number one, adjusting your study habits. Number one tip I would have to be with flashcards. I don't know about you, but for studying, I would really recommend flashcards. We're actually gonna hopefully have someone from the Career Center come on and be a guest speaker later on, so stay tuned for that. Who's gonna come on and give us some study tips and whatnot. But from my experience, like I say, flashcards are detrimental for studying for tests for me. And now with the whole coronavirus, everything being online, I really recommend everyone gets a whiteboard or you have your Google Calendar super synced for all your exams, because that's very easy to miss a simple quiz or a whole exam. Even if you're not, you don't have, if you don't have it written down, you're not going to class anymore, you're not being reminded. And that would be my two top tips. I would study tips, I would say.
How, how do you feel? How do you feel the teachers have been as far as like the last semester? I guess it was a little bit. Everyone was thrown off. But I guess this semester, what do you feel so far about the way teachers are handling it?
I feel like it's way, yeah, like you said, last semester it was mid semester when they went ahead and canceled everything. And it was very tough on everyone. I say specifically the teachers, because it was harder for them to adjust. So um, this semester feels more. It feels more fluid. I feel like everyone has a grasp on what they're doing. I think everyone was kind of worried that it wouldn't work out, but I think it's working out pretty nicely. Staying at home all day. It's about time management. It's about time
Yeah.
management, though. I'm not gonna lie that it's very convenient staying home all day. You save time because you got to drive. I live off campus, by the way. I live in a duplex, and I have to drive to campus. And I had usually allotted like 40 minutes for me just to drive there, walk to class, and so that's time that I don't have to sacrifice anymore, where I could just be studying. But also, you gotta study. That's the thing about being home all day.
Mhm.
You gotta develop some nice time management skills. Yeah,
Yeah.
how's your experience been?
So far, like you said, I feel like the if there was one way to summarize how it's been as far as like for students and teachers, I guess it'd be like it's now just more work. So now it's about who's willing to do the extra work to be able to still get your good grades, or for if you're a teacher to be able to still be teaching the way you want to be. I feel like it's just an extra challenge, and now it's more so just another obstacle that everyone has to try and figure out.
Yeah, no, definitely. But would you say everyone's been successful in it?
No. That's what I was trying to like get at, was that I guess now it's about, because now it's another obstacle that everyone has to come through. It's about who's going to, like you said, do the things you have to, which is time management. I feel like the main thing right now, because of the whole online courses, who's willing to do that extra time management, who's willing to just sit down in their at home and just study for 3 hours if they have to, and who's not. So I feel like, I guess we're still barely at the beginning of it, but I felt that's what I felt these first couple of weeks has been like, okay, I need to do a little bit extra work to be able to still get good grades, to be able to focus a little bit extra, you know?
Definitely, I could definitely relate to that. We have a couple questions here. We had pre-planned to address, and a good one I believe we should start off with was, what does being a first generation Aggie mean to you? If you want to take that one, Isaac.
Yeah, I'll go first. Um, okay, let me just, I wrote myself just like little reminders. Okay. Okay. So I guess what it means to me, it's more, it's less and less the more I'm going through college about the degree. Like I don't really find myself thinking too much about like, oh, this is the degree I'm getting. It feels more so personal, and I feel like that is because I'm a first gen Aggie. It feels more so like the way I envision me graduating is me graduating so that I'm the first in my family who's done this, who's achieved this, and so that mainly, I guess specifically, I have a little nephew. So I guess the main thing that gets me motivated is if I complete college and I get through it, then my little nephew will have someone to talk to about like, oh, how was college? How do you get in? Like, what are the steps to take? So I guess it's more personal for me, and more family oriented, the task of graduating.
Yeah, I definitely relate to you on that. I feel like that was one of my main problems when I was looking as a first gen student. And a lot of people, a lot of my family, they don't have college degrees. So when it was time for me to go to college, it was hard to find someone to go to get answers. Luckily, I had a cousin who he went to U of H, and told me a little bit about the experience. But I obviously no one in my family went to A&M, so it's all of it's you're moving to a whole. I'm from Houston, as is Isaac, and you're coming out to a whole nother town, an hour and a half away. So it's hard going somewhere where it's completely unexpected. From my graduating class in high school, about three of us came to A&M. Um, but that being said, I didn't really talk to those people, so it was just kind of being thrown here and not having. I don't want to say anyone to talk to about here, but before in pretext, there was no one to. Hey, so how does this work? So do I order my books before the first week of class, after, or then stuff like that. Which although I really
Yeah. So
recommend,
small things.
yeah, the small things, which I really recommend. Quick tip: read your syllabuses, and if the book is not required, wait to buy the book, because some classes you do not have to buy the book. Actually, a professor of mine this semester gave us a full copy of the textbook for free, PDF. So yeah, wait, make sure yeah. So I really recommend everyone do not buy your textbooks before um, coming to A&M. I would recommend that.
Yeah, and I'd also recommend, there's a lot of second party like resellers for textbooks, I guess, like used textbooks and stuff. Even Amazon, if you, like, Amazon's pretty big, they also do that. like you don't necessarily have to buy your textbooks straight from the school. That's the first thing I saw whenever I got into A&M over there in Galveston was the first, I guess, obstacle I was faced with was ordering books. And like you said, I didn't know anyone who really who had already gone to college, so they didn't have any advice to give me. And then on top of that, I wasn't really I had a couple people I knew, like my roommates, but I didn't really talk to anyone. So it was hard trying to figure out the best way to buy books. And luckily, I got advice from someone. I think it was someone I worked with, and they told me to buy it off of a different website because the school's books were over at A&M Galveston. They were selling them for nearly double the price, and I was like, oh, I don't. There's no point in spending this money if I don't have to, you know.
Also, as a college student, every college student gets a 6 month free trial of Amazon Prime, which I highly recommend because that's I saved it. I didn't want to use it freshman year just because I wanted just to wait. I just wanted to wait. So this past junior year, I ended up activating my trial, and uh, it came in clutch because if let's say the first, like I said, don't buy your books the first week, but let's say you get to class Wednesday and they're like, okay, well you're gonna need your textbook next Monday. So that kind of puts you in a situation where you gotta go to the A&M bookstore and buy the books. But if you have Amazon Prime, you could find them very cheap on Amazon Prime. I would look on not Amazon Prime, but just on Amazon. I would recommend finding your textbooks on Amazon, and if you have the Amazon Prime, you could have it sometimes the next day. But I know they guarantee a 2 day delivery, I believe, Amazon Prime. Um, so that's a really good piece of advice that I recommend to everyone.
So yeah, everything that we're basically talking about, or the conversations we're having, is conversations we want to be having with members in our organization, FGA, First Generation Aggies. Like these conversations to help other Aggies, to help other first gen Aggies specifically, I guess, to have this advice, to have these resources somewhere without having to go and ask a million people or having to go Google some question. So that's, I guess, a little promotion for FGA is hopefully with the whole online, we're still trying to do a little bit like training sessions or my bad, studying sessions, and social little hangouts. So hopefully people can come and join those and ask questions that they need to ask. Cause I feel like, well, I guess all college students, the biggest thing that scares us is maybe not knowing, or why we don't want to ask questions is we don't want to seem like we don't know. So I feel like it's good just to get out of that habit of not asking questions and to just ask anything, or ask anything you need to know to the right people.
Yeah, and I'll feed off of that for a second. I wanted to say, although we might be a little biased, we highly recommend that you try out our organization, First Generation Aggies, especially since this semester we have waived membership fees, just due to the fact of the pandemic. Therefore, you really have nothing to lose, and if you enjoy what we have to offer, you could return in the spring, and hopefully, we we could get this Corona thing under control and maybe do in-person meetings if we feel like it's still not safe. Obviously, we will not. Right now, we're trying to hold back on all types of socials and stuff like that. But we have prospective employers come out to speak with us. We have workshops, just stuff like that. That really, if that's another big thing I would recommend to first generation students is join an org. That's whenever I came to A&M. My first semester I was in any organizations, and that really it makes you feel even more distanced. That's where I think orgs come into play. And whenever it
Mhm.
was in my sophomore year, I joined Statistics Scholars since I was in statistics, and that really helped me network with a lot of people in my major, which was very detrimental, I think. And now that I've moved to marketing, well, business, I wanted to get into org, so and then I found FGA, and yeah, here I am, and here you could be.
Yeah, this could be you starting your own podcast with your new org
Yeah,
if you're brave enough to find one. Yeah, it took me all the way. What was it? I guess it was sophomore year. Yeah, all the way till my sophomore year until I also joined FGA. This is the only org I've been in college so far. But honestly, like it's not even about as much about, some people say like join orgs to make friends and to meet new people. It's honestly just to get yourself involved in the school, because unlike high school, like especially A&M, I guess, is really big on traditions and creating environments for people to interact. And if you're not going into those environments and looking for them or trying to interact with people, then you're just going to feel, like Abel said, just even more isolated from everyone else.
Definitely. And then orgs, I was always kind of, I could see, well, I can see how, I see what now in retrospect, it's kind of intimidating wanting to join an org because, you go in there and you're like, oh, they're probably all going to be seniors. They're all going to know what, they have their life together. As a senior, I can tell you your life when you become a senior doesn't just fall together. It's still, we're still figuring it out as well. And then most orgs, when you join, they're more than happy. I can tell you from experience, whenever we have meetings and stuff and we see new faces, it's the best feeling when you see more people coming in, because that's more people for us to connect with, because we were once in everyone's shoes, and that's what FGA is all about, and just trying to get make everyone feel like we're a part of something and come together, and go know that if you have any obstacles, that's what we're here for, big or small.
Yeah. All right. So what put the idea in your head to go to college in the first place?
I was always a big fan of higher education. I always wanted to go to college. I was in middle school, elementary. I love to read and stuff like that. So that's sort of, and my parents, they're the most supportive parents you could ever ask for, because they always wanted me to go to college and whatnot. They supplied me with the materials. I didn't know what college I wanted to go to. I just knew I wanted to go to college. And in middle school, eighth grade, we went on a field trip. We came on a field trip here to A&M, and I seen just this huge campus, all these resources. Everyone looked super stressed but determined. It was, I don't know if it might have just, I don't know if it was finals time or it could have just been regular day during the week, but when you're walking on campus, some people are just, in the zone, and that's I wanted, I was, I see their value for education, and I want, that's where my value for education was. So coming here and seeing that, that's when literally that day I was like, I want to go to A&M. And then I went and toured U of H and other schools, but I had to give it to A&M, man. They really, the campus is beautiful, and it's own town, and it doesn't get better than A&M for me. A little biased.
My experience, as far as I guess, so people could get a different perspective also. Mine was almost nearly the opposite. I don't think I saw A&M campus until I visited, like, senior year, whenever everyone at school was telling me, like, hey, like, you probably visit, or now's the time to go visit colleges. So I finally went just to get out of school too. I was just like, all right, I don't get to go to school. I guess I can go on a little field trip. But yeah, I didn't see A&M till then. But like, same as you, I came here and I was like, I guess maybe it's the energy that you feel. It's like, okay, it feels like things are happening. It feels like everyone's focused on something, even though it's maybe not similar or the same thing, just similar. But I liked it too. Just like, it felt, the community vibe you got, it was there for sure. And also, like you said, felt like the intensity from everyone, like wanting to, or really focus, and like having tunnel vision.
Yep, exactly. Let's go ahead and go with our last icebreaker question, which is, do you have a favorite quote you try to live by? Now I'll let Ice go ahead and start off with his quote.
All right. Yeah, I actually do. I guess I'll give a little backstory to it. So, um, the person I got the quote from was my soccer coach in high school, and he was an interesting guy. He also did cross country, soccer. He was a history teacher too, and the thing I liked about him, and especially my other coach, was that they always seemed so positive, and they always seemed upbeat. Which first of all, before all that, teachers have like that crazy ability to, or some teachers I'd say, ability to just seem positive all the time. And I guess I really like that. So whenever I heard him tell us this quote, whenever we were in the locker room before one of our games, I guess it just caught my attention. But the quote is, um, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, then change your attitude towards it. And I guess it's a real soccer, it's a real coach quote. But I liked it because I started using it just like in school. I'd be upset about something, and then the quote was in my head. So I was like, oh, if you don't like it, change it. And if you can't change it, change your attitude. So it just started it started making things feel less important, because if something was wrong and I couldn't change it, well then that's the end of it. I can't change it. So I'm gonna just try and make sure I don't feel negative or upset about it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I like that. I like that.
What about you? Do you have a quote?
Yeah, so for mine, I tend to stress out over things. So what I try to live by is, I actually had this in my Instagram bio for a little bit, but it's not a quote, more of a state saying, but carpe diem, which basically means seize the day. Because sometimes I feel like we take life too seriously, and it's important not to waste today while you have it. Live one day at a time. Plan for the future, but don't forget you're living in the present. That's what I like to live by. But yeah, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this episode up. But first, before we do, we want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, Northwest Drivetrain and Services, located in Houston, Texas, specifically Jersey Village. They went ahead and sponsored all of our equipment for this podcast. From the headphones to the lighting to everything, and without them, we wouldn't have been able to make the production on this high of a level. If you ever need any truck parts or drive shaft repairs, Northwest Drivetrain and Services in Jersey Village will have you taken care of.
Yeah, a quick shout out also to all the people, all the new editors, moderators, publishers. If I'm forgetting one, I'm sorry. All the new positions that we have under this podcast, those are the members that are really helping make everything go. They're really on top of it. We've just barely started to meet them, but like you can tell that we got a lot of good, excited people who are ready to work. And I just want to give them a shout out as well as the organization. Thanks for everyone to be able to make this possible. It's been a long process to try and get here. And like Abel said, like we're excited for the guests that we're gonna have on. Hopefully we can help a lot of the community out at A&M and the students as well. And yeah, just excited and thankful for everyone.
And last but not least, don't forget to wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance, and Giga Maggies.